Tito Ortiz training to be a pro wrestler at WWE Performance Center. Also, Greg Olson not done and now he's a Seahawk. Also, a huge crash at the Daytona 500. Ryan Newman updates. Week 3 of the XFL. Big news, a lot to get to. Let's get it in.
Welcome to The Point.
Ladies and gentlemen, what is going on? And welcome to week 3. That's right, the third episode of the one, the only, The Point. I am Rick, of course. By now you should already know. And on the other side of the screen is the man, the myth, and the legend, Haystacks himself, live and in the flesh. Now, of course, I want to give a big shout out to everybody. Thank you for the success. The first 2 episodes are absolutely smashing it. But we're going to jump right on into this. So, hey, grab on if you're scared, jump in the Haystacks hip pocket. So the first thing I want to touch on, Haystacks, is the latest word around the damn campfire is that apparently Tito Ortiz is transitioning permanently, at least it seems, from the MMA world to the wrestling world, and he is actually training at the WWE Performance Center. Now, what are your thoughts on that? I mean, where does this guy go from here? We all know he's a wrestling fan. He's been involved in Impact and WWE time to time. What do you think?
It's getting a little bit crazy, man. Like, I understand that these guys, they need something to do, but go be a coach in your own sport. Go build talent in your own sport. It's getting to the point to where boxing and MMA are kind of getting taken over with the whole wrestling business. It's more of a show anymore than a competition, and it's getting sad. Help your own business. Go train guys and bring on the next generation in your own business.
Yeah, you're not going to get any argument out of me. I'm a Tito fan. I really am. I've yet to see the 30 for 30, the Chuck and Tito, but I'm interested to see where this goes. We all know WWE is the big time of the pro wrestling world, whether we like that or not. So it'll be real interesting to see how they use Tito, because we've all seen how they've used other big stars in the past, other than Brock Lesnar, of course, the guy that walks on water with the WWE. The other subject I wanted to bring up real quick, let me look at my notes real fast. I don't know if you've heard, Greg Olson, commentator with the XFL. Excellent job, by the way, killing it in the booth. Been a Panther as far back as I can remember, and then, of course, Bears before that, tight end. For those of you who don't know who Greg Olson is, an excellent football tight end, even better human being. Has one hell of a story, but apparently he's not done after all. He has signed a 1-year, $7 million deal. I believe $5 million guaranteed. Don't quote me on that. But with the Seattle Seahawks. Man.
That's interesting to walk away and go to the booth and then turn around and sign with another team. It kind of makes you wonder what's going on in Carolina. You're more versed on that situation because those are your boys, but is there something going on the inside that's...
Well, if I'm being completely honest, Matt Rule, the new head coach, don't know a lot about the guy. Done a little bit of research on the guy, but I will say this. I'm excited to see where he takes the Panthers. I know he's had some success on the collegiate level. For those of us Panthers fans out there living in purgatory since 2015, to see Greg Olson leave the Carolina Panthers, mutually part ways, and to end up on the Seattle Seahawks roster, a team that has knocked us out of the playoffs many times in wild card games and other games, that stings a little bit. I'm a huge Greg Olson fan. Again, the player and the person, but this one to me feels, I ain't gonna lie, it almost feels personal on some levels. I know we've had a couple of players leave. Hell, really, the only thing we have left from big name players from Rivera's reign is Cam Newton, and we've yet to see exactly where that's going to go. But I got to tell you, that one took me by surprise. Now, the other thing, your realm of expertise, I know you covered this in a fast break. I want to talk about this real quick before we jump on in and give these people what they want, what they're here for, and that is the XFL Week 3. Excuse me. The big news in the sports world, and there's been a ton of news this past week, but the big news is the big crash at the Daytona 500. I believe it was the last lap, if I'm not mistaken, where Ryan Newman was involved. You care to elaborate on that for these folks?
Yeah, man. It was last lap. They had just came off of a caution. They dropped the green white checker. Had a small wreck. They've done it again with NASCAR rules. You throw the green white checker once again. Going and coming out of turn one, I believe it was. Newman was blocking. Got passed by Denny Hamlin. Was trying to block. Car got a little loose on him. Came down on top of another driver. Not positive who that was. There's so many new guys in NASCAR right now that I'm trying to keep up with. But shot him nose first up into the wall. It's very, very similar to how Earnhardt hit. Car went airborne, came down on the roof. Another vehicle came through, couldn't slow down in time, T-boned him upside down in the driver's side. Car caught fire. They brought out the black tarp to hide the driver, which is never good news in NASCAR. Fortunately, after Denny Hamlin got the win, by the way, the next day they said that Ryan was awake. He was communicating with everybody. 2 days later, the guy walked out. And if you guys get a chance to see the wreck, or you see the vehicle after the wreck that was up on the rollback, how anybody lived through that is incredible.
Right. And, look, everyone knows I'm not a NASCAR fan per se. It's just not my forte. I'm not going to knock these guys. I know what they do. I know what goes into this. And it's not easy to do. First and foremost, congratulations, Denny Hamlin. But second of all, let's give God the glory here, man. And this ain't a religious show. I'm just telling you, when any man, I saw the highlights, I saw the video packages of that accident. It was hellacious, and I was really worried. I was really nervous, man, because usually when you see something like that, like you said, the Dale Earnhardt scenario, where when he hit the wall, because like I said, I don't live under a rock. I may not be a NASCAR fan, but I know when you see something like Dale Earnhardt when he hit the wall, it didn't look that bad, man. It didn't look that bad. If you would have compared those two accidents, you would have thought that most definitely Newman's would have been a little bit more of a grave situation than Earnhardt's. Unfortunately for Earnhardt, we know how that ended. But Ryan Newman, as you said, from what I saw a very badass and awesome picture. Him and his two kids walking out, on their own power of the hospital on their way home only a few days after the accident. Man, you can't ask for much more than that.
No. I'm telling you right now, when that car got squirrely, Dale Sr., he plopped his ass right in shotgun position and rode that crash right on out with Ryan.
Yeah. Well, I got to tell you, that's the best result we could ask for.
Absolutely.
So Newman, brother, we're glad to see you're alive and well. and continuing to be a good husband and father. And I'll leave that right there. Without further ado, let's get right into it. We got an action packed weekend of XFL football to talk about, and we're going to do just that. The first game was the New York Guardians versus the St. Louis Battlehawks. And man, I'm not going to, I'm not going to turn this into a New York Guardian bashing party, okay? But let me, I said it once and I'm going to say it again. The Guardians are struggling their asses off, okay? The Guardians are, McGloin is not the answer.
Uh-uh.
McGloin is not the answer. And I know today he got injured early on. He went out. It was a three-headed monster today for the Guardians. They had McGloin. He went out with an injury. They brought in, I can pull it up here for you. Who did they have here? They had McGloin, then they had Williams, then they had Perez, and Perez did the best out of all of them. We're talking about 5 attempts, 4 completed, with 138.8 QBR. But this game was lackluster for the Guardians again, and I don't have their record in front of me. If I'm not mistaken, they're 1-2.
I believe you're correct on that.
Let me look here. I don't see it in front of me for time constraint reasons. I'll move right along. But let me break it down for you like this. Of course, we all know the final score 29-9 Battlehawks over the Guardians. But here's what it doesn't make sense. We talked about this before. They had more yards than the Battlehawks. They had way more yards than the Battlehawks. But let me look at the third down percentage here. See, third down, they were 2 of 10 on third down, where Battlehawks were 7 of 14, which is only 50%. But again, when you're 20%, I mean, that kind of tells the tape you can't get it done converting third downs. The Battlehawks had more rushing yards, but the Guardians had more passing yards. And if I'm not mistaken, we'll look right here. Yep, penalty yards. Guardians had 86 penalty yards to the Battlehawks 20. So, Scotty, Haystacks, where did the Guardians go from here? What is the answer?
At this point, you have got, if not to get rid of McGloin, because honestly, with the guy's on-field play, with his interview finesse, the guy is a cancer to your locker room. These guys obviously don't want to play for the guy. I don't have the stats in front of me at the moment, but I don't believe that New York has broke double digits this year.
I believe you may be correct on that one. I'd have to go back and look.
Yes, is that a problem with the defense? Possibly. But if your offense isn't scoring in the double digits week in, week out, you need to make some serious offensive changes. It's just incredible to me that you have a guy that's given interviews like this, bashing his team, bashing his coaching, and you're not even looking at Team 9 to see who you want to try to bring in. As you said, the guy got injured. They brought in 2 other backups. You're not even giving these guys a chance to start to see if they can get you going early to kind of to change the momentum. So maybe some of what McGloin is saying is correct. If his coaches are that stupid to keep him in.
Well, that may be the case. That may be the case, although there's a time and place for that kind of thing on a professional level. Understand this is professional sports. These ain't collegiate athletes. We expect a little bit. They're getting paid to play this game. So we're expecting a little bit more out of these guys. And I understand McGloin's struggles. We've all been there with different employers. I mean, I think everybody watching this right now could probably relate to that. But that's not the way to go about it. Now, no matter what the struggles were for the Guardians, I don't want to make this all about the Guardians, and I sure as hell don't want to make it all about offense. Excuse me. But St. Louis, Tiamu, not only did he play very well, I won't. I'm not going to start, polishing the stone, so to speak, and putting him over as MVP or anything. But I said at the beginning of the season, it's going to come down between Tiamu, Walker, and Cardell Jones, and I'm not getting into that shit yet. But Teamu, he had a good game. It wasn't an all star or an MVP game by any means, but their special teams I saw for St. Louis today played their asses off, man. Just in my notes here, I know they blocked a punt. They had a kickoff return for a touchdown. Um, I mean, it was hell. Even their field goal kicker got in on the party with a 58-yard field goal. Just barely made it over the cross beam, but he got it, which I believe, if I'm not mistaken, is the longest field goal so far in the XFL. And I can't, Russolino is his name. Shout out to Russolino. Hell of a kick, kid. But Tiamo, he went 12 of 18, 67 percentage, and he had an 85.2 quarterback rating. But the biggest thing that stands out to me on his stats is he had no interceptions. He also didn't have any touchdowns, but yeah, passing that is. But it looks like right here, let's see what we got. We had Jones and Michael both had a touchdown apiece, and obviously points came from other areas. But if I have to give one shining star, a gold star, gold badge, trophy, attaboy, whatever you want to call it, today in that ball game, I have to give it to St. Louis's special teams.
Yes, they they definitely had the tangibles together on special teams. And really, that's the tale of the tape between that and penalty yards. If you're giving away almost an entire field in penalties, and then you've got your special teams um, blocking punts and shortening the field for you there, you don't need to have impressive stats when you've got your special teams having your back like that.
Absolutely. So without further ado, let's move right along to the second game because this was a big game. Didn't think it was going to be a big game, but there's one man in this ball game. The Houston Roughnecks taking on, as my daughter calls it, her Mountain Dew team, the Tampa Bay Vipers. And all joking aside, I ain't gonna lie, they look like a bunch of bottles of Mountain Dew running out there. But leave it to my daughter. Leave it to my daughter. Kids, they say the damnedest shit. So Houston Roughnecks taking on the Vipers. Houston has what I think will probably end up as the MVP in Walker, who played his absolute ass off again today, combining with, let me look at my notes here. What's this kid's name? Let me look. On the receiving end, Cam Phillips. I believe it's Cam Phillips. This kid had 8 receptions for 194 yards. Longest was 84. He had 3 touchdowns. This guy is unstoppable. He is a beast. Walker went 24 36, 67% completion, had a 306-yard game with a quarterback rating of 120.8. He had 3 touchdowns. Big point here. No interceptions. Goose egg. It's always good. And it's always a good day to be the coach of the Houston Roughnecks when you have a Walker behind center.
If I'm doing my math correct, that's what about 24.4 yards a catch for that boy.
You talking about Phillips? He
Yep.
he averaged 24.3 yards a catch, and with a total of 194 yards, which is pretty damn impressive. But
Not too bad
Walker,
for Billy math right off the top of the noggin, huh?
not bad at all. But the story of the day was most definitely Walker on the offensive side of the thing. Game for the Roughnecks. But on the Viper side, we talked about Murray. Murray obviously is still having some issues. So they have Cornelius, they have Flowers. Cornelius, who played the majority of the snaps, was 16 of 31 52% completion with 193 yards, one touchdown, one interception, but a quarterback rating of 68.3. And of course, Flowers was 4 of 6. No touchdowns, no interceptions. He did his thing. He tried. But again, I don't know what the answer is for the Vipers, but hell, they held their own. It was 34-27 was the final score. They had a couple of high spots in rushing with Smith and Patrick. A couple other ones got in on it, of course, but including the quarterbacks. But on the rushing side for the Roughnecks, they didn't really have a great day. Butler had 72 yards, which is, honorable mention, but was still not anything to really write home about. But nonetheless, if I could pull up here, I'll pull it up for you again. Third down conversions. The Vipers were actually 50%, 9 of 18, and the Roughnecks were only 4 of 12. And they were both dead even in the red zone, 2 of 3. And of course, penalty yards. You ready for this? The Vipers 99 penalty yards versus 39 for the Roughnecks, and that might just be the tail of the tape.
Yep. I keep saying it almost every game. If you're giving up an entire field in penalties, if they can get, it seems like Tampa Bay is turning the corner. They hung in there. You only lose by 7. I'm not real sure what the spread was on that game. I want to say that it was 12 or 12 and a half. So they covered. But just a little bit of discipline, and they might be okay.
Right. I mean, the score doesn't really reflect the game. I was able to catch the majority of this game. Didn't catch a lot of the first game, but I did catch. But this was the first game. My fault. I caught a little bit at the end of it, and I guess you'd have to watch the game to really, just like anything else, to see the excitement. I can talk about it all I want to here. It doesn't really do it justice. But if you watch the ball game, I don't think it was as close as this score shows it to be. Because Walker and Phillips it was the Walker and Phillips show the whole damn game. It seemed like every 5 seconds Walker was connecting with Phillips, and they would such big plays. It just took over the game. And the defense, it's not like either defense really played bad. They both had about the same amounts of passes defended. I know the Vipers had 7 QB hits, so that was a big difference. The QBs. I think the defense for the Roughnecks, it goes without saying, played just a little bit better than the Vipers. But I wouldn't go handing out brownie points or trophies just yet as far as their defense goes. The story of the day again, PJ Walker and damn Phillips, man. We're going to touch on these other games here in a little bit because there was another combo that was off the charts today that I did not see coming. In fact, we may or may not be hearing from one of those individuals here next week. But what's your take? You got anything to add on the Roughnecks and Vipers?
Tampa, they either need to do the same thing. That might be the answer. That might be the answer. Trade quarterbacks and see how it works. But the biggest thing is get you guys disciplined. If you're giving up 99 yards, your guys are just undisciplined, straight out.
Yeah, with the Vipers or the Mountain Dew team, as my daughter calls it, I don't know what the answer is for the Vipers. I really don't. I believe they're 0-3 now. Excuse me, 0-3. There's no O in numbers, as my boss would tell me. But I don't know what the hell the answer is. I don't think they're a lost cause. This game right here is any indication of what they're capable of doing. Because the Roughnecks, they're not pushovers. And we're not talking about an ass whooping here. We're talking about, 7 points, which in the XFL isn't shit. In the NFL, that's a big deal. But the way the XFL set up with 1, 2, and 3 point and shit like that, I mean, It's not a routing by any means. However, let me back up. I saw one play. This is what gave me hope for the Vipers. I saw Smith catch a pass from Flowers, and I can absolutely tell you 110% he got the soul knocked out of his body. This man was hit in one direction right after catching the ball, and immediately helmet. I want to say it was helmet to helmet. Yep, it was. I got it, my notes right here. He was hit immediately, had the soul knocked out of his ass, and he didn't drop that ball. So I hope he's okay. We'll shout out to him, Smith. We hope you're good, man. But that was a hell of a catch, and it was a big gainer too. And not only that, the penalties and shit, but they're not a lost cause, in my opinion. I think they're going to be okay. I think they're probably going to end up right around 500 for the season. That is, of course, if they figure things. It seems to me that they're figuring things out. Now you got teams like the Roughnecks, and well, hell, at this point, it's only the Roughnecks. We're going to get into DC's debacle later. Yeah, I know. Go ahead and laugh, but we'll touch on that later. I think I had that one coming. It's all good.
You got your
But
paper bag ready for your DC segment?
I do. I do.
Tune in for that, folks. Tune in here in just a few minutes.
Hey, love them or hate them. Good day, bad day. DC Defenders fan for life. Same as my Panthers. Uh, but at the end of the day, I guess the point to leave with this game is I think the Vipers are starting to figure shit out. And I think they're going to start getting a little bit better. And it's going to take a little bit of time. Unfortunately, in the XFL, that's not something you have a lot of.
Correct.
And I think that may be one of the biggest deciding factors because lest we forget, there's only 7 weeks left of the regular season. So again, when we're talking about coaching moves and stuff for other teams where coaches were cut right off the rip, and now you're starting to see why. Because the team that did that had a hell of a game today, and nobody saw it coming. So was that the right answer? Was it not? Either way, we'll touch on that here in a little bit. But for now, we're going to go ahead and take a quick break, real quick, because some folks around here may or may not be getting a little old and may need to use the potty. I brought it up before. Laugh if you want to, but see that right there? Yeah. So I will neither confirm nor deny that I'm getting older. But ladies and gentlemen, Scotty, Haystacks, your boy Rick will be right back at you here in just a few.
Tune in next week for episode 4.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back. Once again, we're back after that short, brief recess. We're going to talk about a few things, then we're going to jump right back into these games. But there's so much news. It's so little time to cover this. And I know we're on a time constraint here. We're trying to whittle this down a little bit for you guys and girls out there that love watching this show. Because, hell, we're just like you. We don't want to try to watch an hour and a half. We just want the points and we get it out there. So we're going to jump right back into it. One of the biggest things that came out in the storylines this week was Andrew Luck. For those of you who don't know, Oliver Luck is the commissioner of the XFL, is Andrew Luck's father, the quarterback from the Colts who recently retired. But Andrew Luck pushed really hard for his dad to actually sign, shocker, one of the hottest guys in the XFL, and that is Walker of the Roughnecks. Now, Walker spent 2 seasons with the Colts practice squad and got to know Luck pretty well. Because of that, Luck made his father aware of the hardworking kid out of Temple University. And as you can see, his father gave the guy a shot. Houston picked him. And man, it's been all Walker ever since. So Andrew Luck, does he have a future in coaching? Does he have a future as a talent scout? If Walker's any indication of that, I'd say hell yeah.
Yeah, dude, definitely could be a quarterback's coach. He's definitely got the eye for the talent after that one. Boy, are the Colts kicking themselves right now, though.
Yes, they are. You know they are. Now, the other thing I wanted to touch on is uh, the XFL seemingly has their first major sponsor, if you will, or endorsement. Now, I don't know how you feel about this. Some people may feel a little weird about this because, let's face it, just like NASCAR, right? You know more about that than I do again, but just like NASCAR, alcohol, right, comes into play at some point. But apparently, we saw some social media videos. Bud Light Seltzer. We saw the one clip, and I can't remember the team where they had this little skit worked out. It was snapping a can of Bud Light Seltzer to the kicker, I believe it was, and they, whatever. They had a good time. They laughed about it. But apparently, Bud Light Seltzer is going hard at the XFL, and I guess that they've done their research and they think that little niche is actually going to be a good marketing scheme for them. And I'm not sure if you're aware here. My note says with younger viewers growing accustomed to streaming video favorites, with fewer ads and in some cases none at all, big sports leagues have in recent years um, stand by one. Yeah, that's what I thought. Decals on helmets. Now
Yes.
this is something that I did not. I just saw it in my notes here, and that's why it took me by surprise for a second. I apologize for the dead air, but they're actually putting decals on the players' helmets for Bud Light Seltzer. What do you think about that? How do you feel about that?
It's interesting to me because, the seltzers, the seltzer drinks are more, they're based more around the millennials, which everybody knows my views for if you watch the first episode. I'm not a millennial fan, but what is interesting is, as far as our demographics go, to our show, which is mostly right now at this moment dedicated to the XFL, our show is 100% 35 to 44 age group is watching us, which, by the way, to all those people in the 35 to 44 age group, shout out to you. We thank you very much. Um,
Right
so
here.
it's kind of interesting to me that they would use the XFL to go after that demographic when we personally are seeing the opposite demographic is attracted to this sport.
Right. Well, what I'm more concerned with is I know the XFL is all about thinking outside of the box. Okay, I know they're all about doing things differently. Hell, you've seen everyone in the professional football world is cooing over their kickoffs and everything. And man, hey, we're right here. We're right in the thick of it. So obviously we believe in everything XFL. But this is the one thing I think is a slippery slope. We saw it with the NBA. We saw Major League Baseball try it years ago with the stupid shit on the bases. The advertisement on the bases, which lasted all of about 5 seconds. I just wonder. Okay, I understand there's only so many ways you can promote or commercialize things, but I think you know, you saw Progressive. Progressive is a big sponsor. You see them, on the field. It's Progressive, Progressive, Progressive Insurance. But at what point, again, I don't know what the threshold is for the monetary value and what they're paying for these stickers and decals, but I just don't know that I'm comfortable yet with players running around the field with Bud Light stickers on their helmets. I think it's one thing to have a commercial during the game. I think it's another thing to have an advertisement on the field. I think it's another thing to have the players being moving billboards for things of that nature. considering the demographic of, like you said, the younger generation watching the XFL. I'm not sure I'm a fan of it, if I'm being completely honest. I sure as hell ain't a fan of Bud Light, but but
Yeah,
that's
the
neither here nor there.
the thing with me, I don't have a problem with it if it makes sense. If they were going to do this, they should have moved themselves into the apparel line and done what Jumpman did for, say, the Oklahoma Sooners. I'm biased, whatever, but stretch out. Don't try to push, an alcoholic beverage on apparel. Come out with a Budweiser or some kind of an apparel and put the patch on the jersey that this is your apparel.
Yeah, like I said,
You can
again,
still have it, but at the same time, put it on the football itself. Buy the advertisement on the football. But to put a little 1-inch by 2-inch logo on the back of the helmet, it doesn't make a whole lot of advertising sense to me.
well, it doesn't. And again, slippery slope, but leave that where it is. We'll let that lie. The other point I want to jump on real quick before we get back into the action, the games, which is what we're all about here. An interesting note that I picked up on earlier this week, and it's not a story that picked up a lot of traction, but it caught my eye, and it should catch a lot of people's eye because this is, other than what I think is a impending possible lockout in the NFL, this is a big piece of news. And I touched on that in the fast break. I'll get to that in a second, real quick, and then we'll jump into it. Is the XFL, as they grow, again, the league commissioner, Oliver Luck, the CEO, he mentioned last Wednesday on the Dan Patrick show that it could possibly extend its reach. Now, you ready for this? Into college football. And when I say college football, I'm not talking about seniors who are not getting drafted by the NFL. Okay. Undrafted free agents and stuff like that. Of course, that goes without saying. They have that option to come to the XFL. We know expansion's more than likely going to happen. We're talking about underclassmen. See, right now, there is nothing in place to say that they cannot go after, say, a sophomore or junior who is a star in his own right, but not the guys getting all the attention. Someone who says, okay, my mom is struggling right now. Put yourself in that position. Scotty, you've been there. You were a football player. We've all been there. Financial struggles. You're in college. You're playing for free. And we all know the whole NCAA thing with paying players in college and all the shit that's been going on with that over the last few years. We know these colleges make a ton of money off these players, but they're not making anything. So put yourself in their position. You're a guy, say you're a right tackle. You know you're probably not going to be drafted by the NFL, but you know you could go to the XFL and you could make a minimum $55,000 a year, which is a damn respectable salary by any means. I know they're putting their bodies on the line, their health, and all that. But say mama's sitting at the house right now, she's got medical bills, she's got health issues, and you can go right now with a 10-game season and throw 55 grand at it and at least try to help and put a dent in it, and even still possibly get recognized by the NFL and get called up to the NFL and make even more money. The problem is, and the downside of this is, these are young kids. What is their maturity level? And not only that, this is one of the big issues we actually talk about in my household quite a bit that I do not agree with, such as basketball. The NBA started this rule to where these kids have to go to school for 1 year, right? And then they're eligible to go to the NBA, whereas Kobe's and LeBron's and even the Sean Kemp's back in the day come straight out of high school or junior college and go straight to the NBA. My problem with that is a lot of these guys are getting scholarships that are meant for a 4-year ride. So now you have And I'm sure these rules will change. But you have this, like you saw Duke basketball. Their entire team, 4 of the 5, went to the NBA. They all 4 of them had scholarships. Those scholarships could have been given to someone who legitimately wanted a 4-year degree to make a career for themselves, for their families, and not taking anything away from these basketball players. They may go back and finish their degrees. I don't know. But most of them are millionaires now. I don't understand that. And I think something's going to have to give because they haven't dipped into that pool yet, but I think it's coming.
I absolutely agree. I think what they need to do, especially with the XFL, number one, the XFL shouldn't be allowed to talk to kids that are under scholarship. If they're getting scholarship offers, they should be off limits. They're already getting offers. They shouldn't be getting paid $55,000 a year plus being on a sports scholarship to get a college education. That's double dipping. No. The kids that are walk-ons like a Baker Mayfield, hey, fair game. They're not getting any financial assistance from the university. They're a walk-on. There's no transfer or there's no scholarship. Have at it. But the XFL needs to guarantee that they're going to sign these guys to at least 3-year deals, and they have to play by the same rules as the NCAA, where you have to play at least 3 XFL seasons before you can go to the NFL.
Agreed. Absolutely agreed.
Same thing with scholarship players. Scholarship players, if you're there on scholarship, you should not leave after 3 years. You should have to go complete at least a 4-year degree. Because it sounds great. You go and you sign a $25 million contract. Well, guess what? First snap, you break your back. Yeah, you might go in there with 2.5 guaranteed, but which medical bill is going to pay off after that? Get your damn degree, be smart, have a backup plan, and it should be enforced not only by the NCAA, but also by the NFL, that if these kids are under a scholarship, before they can go to that next level, they should have to have a degree, just like everybody else. I can't go to medical school and go 3 years and be like, okay, well, let me start chopping up on some people. Let's go. No.
Right on. Hey, 100% agreed. You'll get no argument from me. Appreciate your points on that. The last thing I'll touch on real quick, if you haven't heard, you watch the fast breaks, collective bargaining agreement with the NFL. They're actively pushing, trying to get 17 games. They're trying to shorten the preseason. They're going to expand the playoffs. And as of last word that I've got, the word around the water cooler is it's about 50-50 at this point. You got half the players saying that they're okay with it. You got the other half of the Players Association saying, So we'll keep our eyes peeled. We'll keep our fingers on the pulse of the whole CBA thing going down, and we'll make sure we get whatever we got out to you guys as fast as humanly possible. Now, Haystacks, let's move it right along. Let's get back to what the people want. Uh,
we can do the game that matters first.
I'm getting there. I'm trying. The little engine that could, man. I'm coming up the hill. I'm giving it all I got. Dallas Renegades take out the Seattle Sea Dragons 24-12. Now, Dallas called this redemption. It was the Sea Dragons. To be fair, again. Huh?
Dragons.
Yeah. Check this out. Landry Jones, 30 of 41, 73% completion, 274 yards, 3 touchdowns, 2 interceptions, 95% or 95 QBR, quarterback rating. Cameron Artis-Payne, once again, 13 attempts for 80 yards, 6.2 per carry. An absolute beast. Again, hard yards. Dunbar, of course, running back, but Dunbar had 11. Oh my God, he had 9 receptions for 56 yards, no touchdowns. The star of the day was Parham at 2 touchdowns. But on the Seattle side of things, Silvers, man, I, he's not the answer for the Dragons. He's just,
No.
I got nothing against this kid at all. But watching him, um, I know after watching it, I'm not saying he's a bad quarterback by any means, and I don't want anybody to think I'm saying he's a bad quarterback. He went 21 of 34, 62%, 204 yards, 2 touchdowns, an interception, and 85.9 quarterback rating. It was an okay game on paper, but watching it in person, it was an absolute friggin' catastrophe, man. It was a shit show. And Austin Pro, of course, he was the standout. 6 receptions for 81 yards. He had a touchdown. Farrell had a touchdown. Look, I'm not sure where the Dragons go from here. I'm not sure what Jim Zorn, in all his infinite wisdom, is going to do from this point forward. But the Renegades, they got a little bit of validation this week. They got a little bit of validation. I think Landry got a little bit of validation. Cameron Artis Payne and Dunbar, the combo between them two. I love watching those two. We talked about it. They remind me a lot of the two-headed monster or three-headed monster that Carolina Panthers usually have. You know, like when they have, Stewart and D'Angelo Williams. Shout out to my man, D'Angelo. Uh, but and of course Cameron Artis Payne being from the Panthers, he's got that work ethic, man. What was your take on this game, man?
Yeah, that's what's great about having a running back like him there. It sets up that play action all day long. And of course, the air raid offense. You're throwing the ball 41 to 50 times a game. It's there. The risk is there. Landry has got to start making better decisions throwing the ball. If Stoops is expecting him to be throwing the ball 40 to 50 times a game, he's going to have to know when to throw the ball away, quit trying to force it. This kid's averaging now 2 games, and he's averaging 2 picks a game. That's no bueno.
Yeah.
Especially when you're coming in, your season opener that you were a double-digit favorite to win, you lose. You can't be coming in averaging 2 picks a game. And that's my quarterback, by the way. I'm just as critical of him as I will be anybody else.
Yeah, you're right on. And believe me, it's coming. You're getting ready to hear my criticism. But for Seattle, Gardner, the running back for Seattle, man, it's not that he's a bad player. I don't know if it was nerves. I don't know what the hell it was, but he had the dropsies today, man. I saw, Butterfingers, anticipation, nerves, taking his eyes off the ball, whatever. There was 2 back-to-back plays that really sounded the horn for me on Gardner today. There was a draw, not a draw play. There was a screen pass both sides, once to the right, once to the left. And both times, eyes came off the ball came off his fingertips. And it was like every time the Dragons got the ball, and it was like, all right, here we go. They're going to do something now. They would get going, and it was just like they could not, it seemed like they couldn't do anything right. And I know Gardner, I want to put it all on him because it's not all on him. But he had 2 major drops there, and it was back to back. And the other thing that stands out for me with Seattle is Seattle went for it on 4th down today. Zorn gruesome cojones, to put it mildly, and he went for it on 4th down twice. But the problem is 0-2. Did not get on 4th down on either try. And if you were watching the game, you could see for yourself it didn't look like, and it's not Jim Zorn's fault, but it just didn't look like they gave a shit, man. It didn't look like they were really trying. And I don't know if the wind's already out of their sail. much like the Guardians. But hell, man, I don't know. I'm not a coach. I don't know what the answer is for the Dragons. Just like I don't know what the answer is for the Mountain Dew team. But I'll say this today for the Dallas Renegades. Congratulations. It was not a bad game by any means, other than the two picks thrown by Landry. So, where do you think they go from here? Where do you think the Dragons go from here? Dallas, I think, will get better. But what's your take on the Dragons?
The Dragons, they're just going to have to. They're going to have to start getting. They're going to start getting disciplined. That's the word of the day today, folks. Is discipline. If you got butterfingers, you're dropping the ball tomorrow. You better be out there standing in front of the football launcher and get those hands to working.
That's right. You know, if you're gonna be the one dropping the ball, you better be the first one on the damn practice field.
Yeah, you've got to get those tangibles under control. If you're afraid to take a hit, you better get to college and hit the books because football's not your sport.
Yeah, there really wasn't anything else that stood out in that game. The Renegades were 7 of 12 on third down, whereas Seattle was 8 of 15. Not a big damn difference. They were both fit. See, Seattle got in the red zone one time. They made it. Dallas was 2 of 4, 50%. Everything was pretty even keel. Dallas had a little bit more passing yards, but the penalty yards were about the same, 70 for the Dragons, 50 for the Renegades. So, I mean, all in all, it was pretty even on paper. There's really no standouts other than Dallas had had 74 more total yards of offense, 374 to 300 for the Dragons. So we'll see where they go from here. I do think, in my heart of hearts, my opinion is this play calling being plastered, the audio being plastered all over television. I think the coaches are really trying to adjust to having to change this up every single week. That has got to be a monumental pain in the ass. And that's one thing, again, that they have to deal with that NFL does not, at least is blatant. So we'll see where they go from here. Dallas, Landry Jones, man, I'm not a fan. I wasn't. I was harsh on them at the beginning of the season. But they're coming around. They're coming around. Landry has the experience. We know he has the skill set. We'll see where they go from here. I guess it's up to them and the coaching and how well they practice. But one quick note before we move on to the very last game. Drew Brees, if you haven't heard, has re-signed for one more year with the New Orleans Saints. So we'll see how that goes. A little bit of a roller coaster ride down there. You never know what the hell you're going to get. But they're in the Panthers division, so go to hell. Just kidding. Just kidding. Love Drew Brees. Love Drew Brees. Can't stand his damn coach, but Drew Brees is a beast. And, I can't wait to see what happens. Hopefully the Panthers rock that world. But moving on, DC Defenders.
Yeah.
DC Defenders, Wildcats. They were in LA. There was only about 40 people there. But nonetheless, the LA Wildcats had the DC Defenders numbers, and they spanked that ass.
Yeah, it's kind of funny to me. Not that they lost, but a couple days ago, I sent you that statistic that we were actually going to use on this show. We were going to use it on this show. That Cordell Jones has not lost a game since high school. He went, I believe it was 12-0 in college.
As a starter.
As a starter. He went, I believe it was 12-0 at Ohio State. Screw Ohio State, by the way. And went, 2-0 in the XFL?
Yeah.
As soon as I shared that stat with you, I said we gotta use that.
All went out the window today. It all went out the window today, and I'll tell you why it went out the window today. Cardell Jones played like absolute shit. He played like he was a deer in the headlights. He played like he had never held a football a day in his damn life. He double pumped. He stared down the defenders. He forced the ball. He threw not one, not two, not three, but four picks today. I've never seen anything like it. The closest thing I can equate it to is the 2015 NFL season. The Panthers went 15-1, got to the Super Bowl, and got that ass handed to them by the Denver Broncos and Peyton Manning. That's what it felt like today watching that game. Uh, I'm gonna be the first one to sit here and tell you I don't think the Wildcats are for real. I think they're a good team. I don't think they were as good as they. I think they just had. Let me back up. I think they're a good team. I just don't think they're a championship team. Not yet. We're 3 games in. We're 3 weeks in. But you ready for this? Defenders had 200 rushing yards to the Wildcats 56. We had defenders had 290 passing. Excuse me, total yards to the Wildcats 334. We ran 67 offensive plays to their 51. And I say we, I'm talking about defenders. And here's the kicker. You ready for this? Third down conversion, 2 of 15 for DC. 2 of 13, while the Wildcats were 4 of 10. So you see, I'm getting to it. There's a point to this. The red zone defenders were zero. They had one opportunity, they blew it, and of course in the red zone for the LA, 3 of 3.
Ooh.
They made them count. And let me get down here. Penalty yards. Defenders 54, Wildcats 10. And the big kicker here, let me see if I can find this real quick. Net passing yards. You ready for this? Passing yards for the Wildcats, 278 to the defenders 90.
Ooh.
And there's your ass kicker right there. So it's safe to say the air raid was in full effect in LA, so to speak. Not so much for the defenders. And hell, Cardell couldn't help but throwing the ball to the other damn team. Ass kicking, man.
I didn't get to watch the game. I'll be the first one to admit that I did not get a chance to watch the game. But if you've got a quarterback in there that is rattled enough to where he has thrown 2 to 3 interceptions, it's time to pull him, give somebody else an opportunity to see if they can spark the offense. If you got a guy that's throwing 4 picks in a game, it's definitely time for the coaches to step in and do something. But that's the Ohio State effect. That's what we call that. That is why no Ohio State quarterback ever succeeds at the next level.
Brother, I can't touch that one, but I can tell you this. What I saw today from LA is what we should see from every team, every game of every season. We all know they have bad days, but there was a common bond today. There was a common purpose today. And I don't know if you saw any of the highlights, but I watched this entire game. LA was a solid unit. They were a solid unit on the sidelines, on the field, on the microphone. They were solid. They were having fun. They were having the time of their damn life. And one of the biggest takeaways from this game was, you remember not too long ago, there was a trade from the defenders to the Wildcats. They sent McBride to the Wildcats in return for Ross. First score McBride had today. Didn't say a word. Just gave a certain look to the camera. And if you want to check it out, go back and take a look at it. Didn't have to say a word. Just gave that look to the camera. Now, McBride played his absolute ass off, bro. He had, let me look right here. McBride, I got him pulled up down here. McBride. Where you at, McBride? First of all, before I get to McBride, can I just say this? Are you ready for this? Cardell Jones. Jones, I love you. But we report the facts, and I'm going to put it out there for what it is. To be fair, he was very positive now. Very positive. He put all this on himself. I didn't see the presser after the game, but I'm sure he did the same after the game. He went 13 of 26, 50%, 103 yards. Brother, 4 interceptions, no touchdowns. Quarterback rating 20.7 versus Johnson for the Wildcats. Check this out. He finished with a quarterback rating of 148, 18 of 25, 72% completion, 3 touchdowns, 0 interceptions. So, simply put, Cardell Jones got outplayed today. But let's not discount their defense. I'll get to that in a second. But now that I was talking about it earlier, I got him pulled up. McBride, he had 5 receptions for 109 yards. 40 was his longest, and he had 2 touchdowns. He was a beast. He was an absolute beast.
A little under 22 yards a catch.
Absolute beast. And again, not to discount the defense, because on the defensive side of things, there was several sacks in the game. Williams, Stevens, and Reed, all for the Wildcats, had sacks. And the moral of that story is the offensive line, for whatever reason, they were bested by the Wildcats, the offensive line for the defenders. And Cardell was not comfortable. He didn't have the time he would normally have in the last 2 games. And for the first time this season, he was uncomfortable. And it made me uncomfortable to watch it. Obviously, repping Defender gear. I'm a Defenders fan. Everybody knows that. Man, it was like a train wreck. 39-9, the final score. DC just could not do anything right. The only touchdown they got is when they brought in the backup quarterback. They brought Jackson in. He went 1 or 2, 50%. Had whatever. I'm sorry. That's rushing. That is my fault. No, that's right. Yep. That's right. They brought him in. It wasn't a pass, but he got them to the promised land. So nonetheless, DC, man, you think they bounce back?
I want to say they will, but it all depends on Cardell and how he's grown. If he holds on to that performance, DC's doomed. If he shows some maturity and he bounces back, I mean, again, you gotta think this is a kid that hasn't lost a football game in 3 to 4 years. He hasn't lost a starting game since his senior year of high school. How is this going to weigh on him? Is he going to go and another thing, where does this go for LA? Does defense wins games and defense wins championships. If you're rushing and you're sacking the quarterback and you're pulling down 4 picks and you're stopping, you pretty much shut down one of the league favorites to be the MVP.
It's a good day.
It's a real good day.
It's a damn good day. A few key points I'll touch on before we get the hell off here. The Wildcats had 278 passing yards to DC's 90. Of course, that goes hand in hand with Cardell's shitty day. But the Defenders also had more penalties. They had 44 more penalty yards than LA today. And I think the moral of the story is today was just a shitty day for the Defenders. There's no way you can put it other than that. They had a shitty day in every aspect. So it wasn't like, okay, Cardell had a shitty day. The coach had a shitty day. No, everybody had a shitty day. I saw one kickoff reception or a punt reception where the guy took his eyes off the ball and fumbled it out of bounds. at the day. I mean, hell, they were inside the 10-yard line. I mean, everything they touched today seemed to turn to shit. And here's the big key: before today, the defenders, the Roughnecks, there was just a few teams that were really the cream of the crop at the top, so to speak. And I think after today, the Roughnecks emerged the best team in the league at the moment. I mean, when you got a guy like Walker playing quarterback, holy shit, man. But two, there's a double-edged sword here. The defenders can go all the shit after today, or after this game, and the Wildcats can go up from here, or defenders can bounce back. And I mean, hell, who knows? To be fair, maybe the Wildcats, because I got to be honest with you, watching that game, watching LA, watching how they gelled as a team on the sidelines with reporters on the field, everything they touched turned to gold, while everything DC touched just turned black and died. It's like necrotic, man. I kind of saw LA, man. I was looking at that symbol on their helmets, and I felt the passion in McBride's voice. And their running back. Who is it? What is this kid's name? Their running back, Carter.
Yep.
I think it was Carter. Mr. Action Jackson, man. I mean, dude, I heard the conviction in their voice when you could tell they were frustrated. I think they were 0-2 before today. So the fans, you could see the stands were not full, and you could hear the conviction in this kid's voice when he looked into the camera and he said, "We love y'all. We're out here for y'all. Watch us. Come see us. We love y'all." You know, I felt like LA, they felt like a championship team today. But again, it's one day. We'll see what happens.
Yeah, it's another point that I want to make. And by all means, it's not an excuse, because I don't make excuses for anybody, especially an Ohio State player. But if I'm not mistaken, this is their first away game, their true away game. I wonder if maybe that kind of, because I mean, they flew across the country for that game.
True story.
I think that their first game was either at home, or I believe their first game was at home. Yeah, it was, because they had the shields and they did the display.
So my
And then I
DC,
believe, yeah,
see that this was their first away game.
yeah. So I'm wondering how much of that kind of came into play into this game.
Obviously, well, my personal opinion, I think it had a lot to do with it. And I'm also not a fan of, playing in an open stadium at the certain time of day where the sun's blinding you in certain directions. And I don't think people really take. I'm not making excuses for DC. This is any team, but see, here in North Carolina, that's good old fashioned North Carolina football. You know, there is no dome. But it, the other side of that coin is that there's so many angles with the light and everything. I saw Cardell. I saw him running towards the shaded side of the field to throw the ball. I know if you've ever played football, you know how much that affects your vision. So, again, who knows? Bad day? Sign of things to come? Who knows?
See us in 7 days and you'll find out.
Absolutely. Speaking of which, before we kill this for today, we have games next weekend that we need to talk about and make our picks. So,
Last week, by the way.
say that again.
How'd we do last week on picks?
I don't have that information in front of me, but I promise you next week we will talk about that.
I believe I went with LA for the upset.
Did you?
I think I did.
You may have. I have to look at my notes for next week, and we'll get on top of that for everybody. Get a little ticker going and see where we're at with that. Week 4, we got LA Wildcats and the New York Guardians. Then we have the Dragons and the Battlehawks. Houston Roughnecks and the Renegades. That'll be a damn good one.
Ugh.
And then, of course, we have the DC Defenders and the Tampa Bay Vipers.
That's a good bouncing back game.
Wildcats Guardians, who you got?
Wildcats, Guardians. You know what? I'm going to go Wildcats on that one. I think that defense has found itself.
Dragons and Battlehawks.
Battlehawks all the way.
Roughnecks, Renegades.
You even have to ask.
Nope. Defenders and Vipers.
Do you have to ask?
DC.
I think that Tampa might, depending on how Cardell bounces back, that right there could be an interesting one. If Tampa really has found themselves, that might be a game. If Cardell comes in pissed off, it could get ugly quick.
I'm gonna go out on a limb here for mine. My picks are gonna be just a little rough, as in neck. All right, I'm taking LA, the Dragons, Houston, and DC. So, a little lofty on the. Let's see here. LA, no doubt. But the Dragons over the Battlehawks, that's a lofty. That's big ambition. So that's who I got. That's what I'm taking. So you got anything to add before we jump off here with our final point?
Tune in next week. Remember, as always, you guys got questions, you got comments, anything that you want to hear us talk about, anything you don't want to hear us talk about, send it to the email, man.
Hey, you're scared, so you're scared.
Yeah. YouTube, like, share, subscribe to the 300 people that are consistently watching us. Thank you. And again, very soon, we'll probably be doing some kind of a giveaway. Got to get those subscribers, guys. 300 of yous watching. Hit that subscribe button. Help us out.
That's right. Bottom of your screen. Pointiswhat@gmail.com. If you're scared, say you're scared. Ladies and gentlemen, once again, it has been my man Haystacks, your boy Ricky B. It's been The Point, the third ever episode. We're going to polish this bitch off with the whole point of the whole thing. What is the point, Scotty? What is the point of Haystacks? You're about to find out. Until next time, next week, next Tuesday, episode 4 coming hot and heavy. Stay tuned for the fast breaks because we're going to shoot them out at you like bullets as fast as we can get it, as fast as we're going to ship it right back out to you. Ladies and gentlemen, it's been your boy. We're out. Set them up. We knock them down. The third week of The Point in the books. Third week of the XFL season in the books. So what is the point? Well, I guess you could say the point is that at one point in time, the NFL, it was any given Sunday, anything could happen. But now with the XFL, if you haven't seen, that with the rules and everything that they're doing and the innovation, it's all up in the air. So I guess you could say the point is it's not any given Sunday anymore. It's any given Saturday or Sunday or whatever the hell day the XFL decides it's going to be. In a short 10-game season, you've already seen 3 weeks down, 3 games for each of your beloved teams. And anything is possible. We saw DC Defenders get absolutely routed today by the LA Wildcats. And we saw Walker continue his dominance through the air and on the ground with the Roughnecks. We're seeing struggles, we're seeing strife, we're seeing victories, we're seeing teams gel and come together. But what we're seeing, more importantly, is a love for American football. And the point is this week, American football is back. There's a lot going on in the sports entertainment world, and you have my word that myself and Haystacks will keep our fingers on the pulse of anything and everything that's hot and relevant and exciting for you. And we're going to keep evolving this show to make it as entertaining as humanly possible. 2 guys talking shit, having fun, throwing it out there for you, your viewing pleasure. We thank each and every one of you for tuning in, giving us the love and support. But the point, at the end of the day, above all else, outside of the XFL and the sports world, is be good to each other, love one another, stop the hate, spread the love. And until next week, it's been your boy, and The Point's out. Episode 4 coming at you hard and heavy. Stay tuned.